So I've actually been wanting to start vlogging for a while because I know I talk a lot about technical stuff, but it's more prepared or like scripted, and I thought it would be good if I show you what like day to day actually looks like. Also because before I did my, I think it was a day in the life or something, and I really enjoyed filming that because I think compared to my other videos it allows me a bit more of creativity in terms of shooting, and I enjoy that. So that's why I'm starting these vlogs. I think it will be once every 2 weeks, something like that. And also so I can show you a bit more of what I actually do at work. Obviously I'll have to not go into too much details sometimes, but at least get an idea of what I do. Today is actually a pretty heavy meeting day because a big thing that I work on is I basically built a system that relies on LLMs to do data categorization and like match into the categories we have the new data from other sources basically, and that's about as much detail as I can give you. And so I built that system, we like tested it, we did like a proof of concept, but now I'm expanding it to add other teams to test it because it was just like a very simple, we have this data, we want to put it in those categories, where does it go? But now we want like actual more complicated and different sources of data. So I actually have a lot of meetings this week that are just introducing this system that I built to them and see how they can use it or how we can work out a way to work together. And it's honestly super interesting, and I actually really like talking to people, which sounds weird, but I like presenting work and doing those types of meetings. So I need to prep a bit because I like to go in with a specific like plan of what I'm gonna say, also because depending on the team they have different types of data, and also sometimes I talk to someone very technical and sometimes someone not very technical, so I have to adapt a bit my speech to them. So that's what I will do now for the last 40 minutes before the meeting. Okay, so my morning meetings have gone well, presentations went well. I got some even like interesting feedback on the architecture I set up and how I could, make it even better. Now I'm gonna focus on something that I've been procrastinating a bit, which is adding more documentation for the project, especially because I was mostly working like alone and doing like simple tasks, but that means I kind of neglected proper documentation. But now that I'm bringing more people onto the topic, it really becomes necessary. And usually I like doing documentation, but this time I neglected it a little bit, so I need to catch up on that, and that's going to be most of my afternoon. And I think for the rest of the week I have a lot of tweaking to do for the like matching pipeline. Basically it's a lot of pipeline work and like running tests and making sure the system actually works for different use cases and for like different people, so they need to all have their dedicated pipelines for that. So yeah, back to work for me. So I'm done with work for today, and since I already spent a lot of my day behind my desk, especially when I work from home, and I don't want to be spending my whole evening to do that, but I also always have chores that I need to do anyway. And today something I want to tackle with is this shelf. So it sits right by my desk, which is very convenient to grab stuff, but it's kind of disorganized and it actually doesn't really have the things I need to grab. And recently I got this very, very stunning lamp that sits right there on my desk, but since it's a little far away from me and it's already by the window anyway, it's not really where I would need the light to come from. Among reorganizing the shelf to only have things that I actually need to grab, I also want the lamp to be on here so that the light will project onto where the rest of my desk is and I can easily reach for it. And yeah. week so far. Lots of meetings, so already it's like half of the day is gone, and I mostly spent it in meetings or preparing meetings. We got some very good results on like one of the pipelines that I talked about before, like using LLMs to classify data. We got one pipeline that got approved on the sample that we use. Didn't took that much tweaking. It was basically just making sure that the LLM has enough context on the data input, so like what the data represents, how it should be interpreted, and then to label it or like classify it the right way. Also enough context on what our different categories are and what exactly they mean, not just the like label of it, but the actual explanation behind it. So that's really good. Next will be bigger sample, more use cases, so more pipelines to build. And yesterday I went to the office, so that's why you wouldn't see any footage of it. And I also brainstormed a little project for me to do on the weekend, because obviously I spent a lot of time coding already every day of the week. But I think it's a little bit of fun, and like I have a little like use case for something that I want to have for myself. So that'd be my little project of the week, and I'll be sharing that with you as well. Okay, it's Sunday now. I didn't go outside that much this weekend, but I have a little project to conclude this vlog with. I realized that when I have the Spotify tab open on my laptop, because the UI is so heavy for some reason, it takes quite a bit of like load on my computer, especially because they have this like video preview that opens up sometimes. So I'm gonna build something for it that, wait a minute, I will show you the architecture I have. Okay, so we have two options. One is to have a CSS injector, basically, and the other one is like a pop-up plus API, basically, connection. So this is just modifying existing website. So basically the extension detects that one of the tab is the Spotify tab, and it just cleans up the website itself by ingesting CSS, possibly JavaScript, and just changing the display so that it's a lighter display. And this is basically like rebuilding my own web app or website, or just having it live in an extension. But for that you need to connect to the API, which, granted, this would be the faster approach, as in once I build it, this will be the lightest one, but it's more complex because I'm not just going off of what's existing. I have to build the interface of the extension, figure out which features I want and don't want, and I have to connect to the API, which means setting it up, creating a token for it, making sure it's maintained over time. And this is very easy to build. Sorry for my horrible handwriting, but it's a little hard to write well like this, but heavier, I guess, because it's still, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a full Chrome tab that's open, and some of the content will only be hidden but might still work behind the scene. And yeah, so those are my two options, but I think I'm gonna go with that one because it's Sunday afternoon already, so I don't have that much time to build it. And also because I already have a lot of like custom extensions that I built for myself on my Chrome, so I don't really want something more that I have to pilot on the extension type, and I'd rather something that is just editing the Spotify tab that is open itself. Also because it's easier than to toggle on and off without actually needing any like oath or anything like that. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna build that now, which honestly is gonna be mostly me talking to Claude and letting Claude build it, and then I'll show you the final results. Okay, so I'm done building the extension. It's a fairly simple concept. I think it's still a work in progress, like it doesn't look exactly how I wanted it to look, but it's 6:30 p.m. on a Sunday, so that's as far as I'll go for this week. I'll probably try to tweak it a bit more in some next episodes, but basically I have this little button on the Spotify app, and then if I click and then I toggle it, suddenly it becomes all grayscales. The buttons here, they're not exactly how I want them to be, and the playlist you can see if you hover it, but you can't see the names of it already. So those are definitely some tweaks I would do, but this is already a much lighter version to run. Obviously it only hides the CSS, so then if I go back to the control and I toggle it back on, then it works again. But like I said, it's a first version and it's enough for today. If you're interested, I will probably try to host it on GitHub, and I'll put the link in the description of the GitHub repo. I mean, feel free to tweak it because it has many flaws, but it's just a starting point. And yeah, that's kind of it for this week's vlog. So like I said, I will be vlogging I think every 2 weeks or at least once a month, and try to show you a little bit of like behind the scenes of how I make my videos, small projects like that one that I tackle, and also some work stuff. I hope you like this format, and I will see you in the next episode.